This is episode number 397, GPL, free
Yo.
as in WordPress plugins.
Free as a bird.
Brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress available and easy. Check them out at serverpress.com.
Also free.
And not these guys. Apparently, they're still being sponsored today. Hi! Go check them out at projectpanorama.com. Whoops. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Oh, yeah, this is the
Hey.
one that gets stuck. Oh, no. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me at Jason Tucker on Twitter.
This is high end here. I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
And? Yeah. Hey, what's up? I'm Say. I'm here to say. I'm here today.
It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg.
Doo-doo.
Go and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We'd appreciate that.
Doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, huh, yay, hey.
And go over to Discord, go to WPwatercooler.com/Discord, where you can go see Say hanging out in there by yourself.
Wow.
Hey man, you know, this is one of those topics we're going to be discussing. We talked about this back in 2014, where we talked about GPL Clubs and this idea of like getting free copies of plugins and themes and such, and supposedly, and even one of them, this was a super interesting one. Even one of these companies actually provided support for these plugins. Can you imagine providing support for plugins that you didn't even make yourself? The only thing you did is ripped out some like special code, and that was it. And then you're like, okay, I'm supporting these plugins now.
I mean, I know a lot of people who've built themes and websites and done that exact same thing. So
This is true.
I don't know that that's like a total stretch.
Fair.
So, like, slap a white label on that, and I made this custom theme.
Right? Oh goodness. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about like what I don't know if they still call this, but like nullified plugins. This idea of like removing all of the stuff where it calls back to home and says, you know, I'm being used on this website or whatever.
So forked.
Plug-in GPS.
Forked.
Yeah, it's really forked up, for sure.
Now,
And
do they
not
leave
like
the
in a
freemiest?
way.
Do they leave the freemiest code in there to make sure that it makes sure that, you know, if you do go and remove that plugin, if it asks you, hey, do you like that plugin?
I hope not.
I want to talk. So the way that this came up again in our conversation is because I was Googling to solve a problem this week. And
You just Google generally just solve a problem? Is that what you
I'm like, Google, solve my problem. I want to be clear. I have typed similar things into Google before.
Did you push the I'm feeling lucky button after you type that in?
Not in this case. Have done that as well.
If you, by the way, if you
Considered a
Google,
type of gambling.
if you Google solve my problem, the top one is step-by-step math problem solver.
Oh, that's not my problem. Maybe that's your problem. See, if I Google it, it's probably different. But your problem is definitely math, for sure. No, so I was Googling. I can't remember what plugin it was now. But it was a mainstream plugin, and I was just Googling for some issues that I was having and some customization I needed to do, and this one of these theme clubs came up, like their documentation about it, and it was like the first or second link, and I was like, wow, and it was like, buy this plugin for $297.
So they're good at SEO.
What?
So they're good at SEO.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I was like, wow, this isn't WP Beginner. I thought they were the only ones who were only able to take the first spot on all my Google searches. Apparently, I was looking for obscure stuff yesterday. But I went over there, and I just hadn't seen one in a long time. I just hadn't. I was like, oh, this is still happening. They're still just knockoff plugins. What I thought was really interesting about this one was that they were really doubling down on like the name of the company or the page, whatever it is GPL. and they're like public license, like really big across their thing. So they're like, we're doing nothing wrong. I mean, I don't know who makes your plugins $2.97 because that screams there's something wrong, like all over it.
There's
like,
a conversion that's happening. What's happening there.
$3 screams value.
Yeah, well, at least it's like you're not trying to like you're like not like the 97-cent store where you're like, well, we're 1 penny cheaper than the 99. Well, I guess that's 2 pennies. We're 2 pennies cheaper than the 99-cent store. This is why I have to Google that math problem.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But the point is one, besides the fact that that's a weird amount to charge, I was just going through there and it's everything. It's themes, it's plugins. They've taken everything, all of them. And they're all $2.97. And I was, I wasn't, obviously I'm not tempted. I want very much to support the WordPress ecosystem. I'm not going to give my clients knockoff plugins, but it really made me think, one, A, this is still happening. And two, if this is coming up in Google searches, why wouldn't someone who doesn't know about these use that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? Like, why wouldn't they just be like, oh, look, all these plugins for cheap. There's no reason for them to not do that. And I just was like, huh, that's dangerous. That seems like a bad plan.
Well, and I'm looking at the site that you're talking about, and I don't want to mention them by name, but they actually they've made it look like Envato. So I'm looking at a theme called The 7, which I've never heard of and I don't use, but they're basically advertising it as they show the price that you would pay at Envato and the price that you'd pay on their site,
right,
next to each other.
Exactly, and they're like, look, it's just cheaper, and so it looks like it's just a deal, and you pay one price. You can pay $99 for your life and have all of those plugin updates for literally forever. Like it's everything.
Now, wait a second. You can pay $99 for a lifetime license, but whose lifetime are we talking about?
The person that made that site.
The lifetime license discussion separately from this. I just thought it was really interesting that this particular website is also offering a lifetime license. I'm like, you mean lifetime?
I'm just saying, are we talking about my lifetime, or are we talking about the lifetime of the website?
I mean, obviously it's the lifetime of the website, but in this case, that is not going to be a long lifetime, very likely. But again, if you're just a user coming up on that, why wouldn't you do that? What would be the block?
If you don't know any better, I mean, there isn't one.
There isn't one. So no wonder they have a bit. I was like, wow, these people are still in business. There's a business model here. People are paying for this stuff. Like, obviously it's, I don't
until
know
you want to get support.
They have,
now,
but
I'm making the assumption that what they've done is not only fork the plugin to take out calls back to the original plugin developers' sites or updates, but they've also probably put in their own malware, for lack of a better term, right, where they're upselling you more of their own stuff, right, to get you to come back to their site.
I did not join to find out.
I've got to assume that just like when if you download a free plugin off of Google that's not on the WordPress repo, right, most likely it's loaded up with a bunch of malware.
Right. And you're setting yourself up, but there's no way to know that. Like, how would you know that? If
we could have Tucker pay $297 and start installing it on the websites he works on.
Wow, Steve! Ouch!
I'm not going to do it.
Well, I mean, so someone is, right? And are those? I mean, maybe I don't know how much money they're making. I just think, it's a very interesting business model. It's like, what did I call it? Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Instead of whatever, but like it's just so interesting, like this concept that you can, and under the GPL, in theory, you can do this, right? You can take this code, and can you take the names? Like, can you say this is ACF because they do, or is that like a copyright infringement? And they're just like, this is like those old perfumes, which you guys probably don't remember, but they were like, if you love Chanel No. 5, you'll love
Chanel No. 6.
No, channel. You'll love Channel 6.
So each of these sites, here's an interesting one, is each of these sites have a DCMA or DMCA takedown thing where you can request to have your particular plugin removed if you find that this copywritten piece of software is on their site, they will go in and remove it within 2 to 3 business days, which I think is interesting. But it's also like, I'm not getting in trouble until somebody actually notices. It's not the ask for forgiveness thing, but just an interesting way of approaching this.
Well, people put that, like, for example, on social media all the time. They're like, this isn't my photo, or DM for photo credit, or, whatever.
Oh, those are gross. Yeah. You're totally right. You're totally right.
It's just like, oh, we didn't know. But obviously, the entire business model is based on understanding what is happening here. So that's just, a disingenuous little, oh, you want us to take it down? Sure, fill out this form. No probs. But
act first and apologize later.
Yeah, but really, here's the question: how legal is that under the GPL? That's my real question. I'm not like a GPL expert, but this has been existing obviously since 2014 and probably before that. And we, it's been around. They haven't gone anywhere. So
there's actually a disclaimer at the bottom of the website that says, all items here are developed by third-party developers and redistributed under the terms of the GPL. So I'm not going to mention their name, but is not affiliated or related to third-party developers or trademark owners, including WordPress, WooCommerce, Zemez, Yith, etc.
Yeah.
So that is basically, I don't know. I know Tucker watches a lot of YouTube, but if you've ever looked at a YouTube video from it's a clip from a TV show, it's a song, and in the description it says no copyright intended. That is exactly
intended.
Right. No copyright intended. Like, I don't own this content. Please don't sue me.
Right. But those get taken down by the bots and the algorithms, because even if you say that, really funny actually, on social media, people, I don't know if you've seen that also, people write, like, they have music in the background or something and they write on their story or whatever, they're like, I don't own the rights to this. Like,
right.
That is completely irrelevant.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter at all.
So I have actually just thought of a really interesting angle on this. Don't mean to stomp on what you were about to say, Tucker, but so what does this mean in the grand scheme of things when it comes to when it comes to the any of these companies that have been acquired? Like, Yoast just got picked up by whatever they're calling EIG now. Like, they have EIG has a lot better lawyers than Yoast probably ever did.
Right.
WP Engine, I don't know if there's any Genesis stuff in here, but I'm sure if it shows up, WP Engine could come along and just be like, oh, hell no, and slap them down immediately.
And the other thing they show right on the bottom of their website, they're using Stripe, right? So you could contact Stripe and have them shut them down from a credit card standpoint.
But could you?
Oh, yeah,
because
totally.
Aren't they under the license? Like, it's not actually.
Right.
I've seen. I think what Cosper's saying. I've seen Stripe and some of these other companies make decisions that are more subjective than objective when it comes to these things. It's at their discretion.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Cosper, let me cut you off.
No, and but that's exactly it, is using a site like this, especially if you're kind of a developer who's just starting out and you're like, man, I can't afford the plugins or anything else, but I got to get the site set up for a client. Like, no, you should bake that into the quote you give the client, is how much these plugins are going to cost. And if you use one of these fly-by-night places, you're going to end up paying for that somewhere down the road when that place disappears. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to need a lifetime license for this plugin. And now that's another $200 on top of what I originally quoted you.
Ooh, I have an interesting question. What happens when you swap from the knockoff to the actual plugin?
It depends on what they fork.
Is the database structure the same?
It depends on what they did to that plugin when they forked it, right?
Can you just
who knows, right? Who knows if they've got the latest updates, right? Who knows? I mean, you're if you're doing this, what we're talking about, and I'm speaking to all of our
hacking
audience.
your own site.
You're taking a risk. When you do this,
taking a risk. That is so benign.
If you're stealing the plugin from somewhere, you're taking a risk, right?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Any of the premium plugins that we talk about on this show that are recommended, the good companies out there that are charging money, the reputable ones have a money back guarantee. So you can pay for it, and if you end up not using it, not liking it, or it's just not meeting your needs, they'll give you a refund. I've gotten plenty of refunds on plugins. There's a lot of reputable companies out there. So there really is, aside from price, there's no reason to do this. And frankly, what's the most expensive plugin that you've bought?
WooCommerce
right?
and all of our extensions.
Okay, all the add-ons, but
add-ons.
I'm talking about a standalone plugin. I think I've paid at the top end for a developer lifetime license, maybe $300.
Right.
That's not expensive. And if you're a professional that's creating websites, like Cosper said, that shouldn't be that expensive. If it is, you're charging wrong.
Steve, I want to be the Steve in this conversation for a quick minute.
Please.
One thing we didn't like mention here is we haven't defined what stealing is, and we haven't defined who is not benefiting from. Yeah. Well, no. Like, I guess what I'm saying is that we use the word stealing a few times when you're able to download these plugins and install them without having a license. So you can use it without a license. The license part of it is for support. The license part of it is for you being able to get updated versions of the software, so it'll be on your website and it'll stay up to date. It also makes it so that you're allowed to contact support and ask support, hey, I'm having a problem with this plugin. Can you help me out? That's where the money part of it comes in, because the money is happening when they purchase the thing initially, and the every year, every lifetime, depending on how you're paying for these things, you're paying for that part of it as the support side of things. So the money part goes to the company for the development of the software and for the support, but the software itself is GPL.
Right. That's where these live.
Right.
In that gray area, the software.
Yep.
Whatever, it's the updates, the automatic updates.
I'm obviously playing devil's advocate here, and I'm playing as if I'm this company. But when it comes down to it, like the code itself is the GPL side of it. The part where where you're asking the person to pay for it before they get the full version of the software, that part of it is the transaction that you're paying for, and you're getting the full version of the software. Full version of software is probably just a modified version of it. Maybe it has some additional code or something like that. But at that point, after that, it's just updates. You're just paying for updates. You could buy it once and never get an update ever again, and let it lapse and never but get your updates, and you've paid for it once, and that's it.
For most, I mean, there are some plugins that have to be actually activated with your license, and it does talk back to the server to make sure you're activated to actually use the plugin, right?
Right. But that's more of a SaaS, and that's a SaaS solution, right?
I get it. I'm assuming that code was stripped out, right, for to be placed on some of these sites.
Right.
Once I've modified the code and stripped out the license, is that still GPL? Have I stolen anything? Have I forked it? Like where? That's the gray area.
Open source software. It's open source software.
Open source software. I've forked it.
Now it's just a fork. And can you call it ACF? Can you call it Gravity Forms? Can you call it, whatever it is? Even like that's where I think if they were taking it and they were calling it super advanced custom fields, or deep gravity forms, or
it's really quite simple. Let's take a page from adult films. I'm sorry, people watch adult films. I'm going to acknowledge that. If your children are listening, please go ahead and fast forward about 30 seconds. You can call all of the plugins. This isn't advanced custom fields, a GPL parody. There, you're free and clear. This isn't Yoast SEO, a GPL parody.
It's Toast SEO.
Right. It's Toast.
I mean, aren't there plugins? Aren't there plugins that are now huge plugins that are a derivative of another one? I mean, I've heard of a few that have like.
I mean,
derived from
WordPress is a derivative of something.
But
else.
like, aren't there a few big plugins out there that are derived from EDD? Like,
well,
if I remember correctly,
EDD came from WooCommerce, I think.
But didn't like, for instance, didn't like Give use like a good chunk of EDD technology? Like I mean, obviously they talked and whatnot, but there's these derived pieces that are being used. Another one that comes to mind is a couple of SEO plugins, Yoast and
All in One.
No, Rank Math. People were looking through when Rank Math first came out. People were looking at it going like, "Oh, this thing is like Yoast, but stripped away." And it's like, well, it's GPL. They forked it and they made their own thing. And just don't go hit up Yoast to ask him for support on this, and you should be fine. So, like, I guess what I'm saying is like, if you want the proprietariness and you want to have that, that we were talking about this in the pre-show, but the proprietary part of it needs to be hidden behind a SaaS solution. If you want to really own all the code and make sure no one else can, take your secret sauce, put your secret sauce behind a SaaS solution that requires a valid license and make all that kind of work through that if you really wanted to go that way.
But there's something else to keep in mind here, right? When you're participating in this activity, I'm not going to use the word stealing, right? When you are participating in this, you're actually taking money out of the pockets of the developers that are working hard to build these plugins, right? If
That's
this
the real problem.
and you're affecting their profits, ultimately somebody's going to go out of business.
Yep.
Right? Somebody's going to be impacted by this.
And then there's nobody to knock off.
Exactly. That's where
your lifetime license is now gone.
Yeah.
And then it's all just going to turn into WordPress.com, and they're not going to let us copy anything.
That plugin that you like is no longer going to be around if you keep participating in this activity, right? I've always, from the get-go, supported all the software developers for the software I use, and it's not. We're talking about plugins, right? There was a period in time where I was buying, I think, 15 different licenses for Macromedia Director. And that was, I think, $800 a year per license, right? I have my Adobe tools that I pay monthly now for all my employees to use them, and that license, that's a hefty license for my team. That's about $600 a month just to have.
Don't pay for the Slack per person. Holy cow sauce!
Exactly. So,
we're keeping us all on the free plan by like charging per person.
But I'm happy to pay that because I want to support the developers and the companies that are building these great tools.
Right. So the point that you were making about how, you're taking it and it's taking money away. Everyone thinks about, oh, I'm just one person. It's not a big deal. There's plenty of paying customers who aren't doing this. And I went to the forest, the mountains this weekend, and there's this great analogy because I saw this lady walking out with a pine cone. There's signs everywhere that says, hey, don't take the stuff out of the forest. And, but everyone's like, oh, I'm just going to take this one pine cone, just one pine cone. And I'm like, well, if they have 1 million visitors a year and, everyone takes one pine cone, that's 1 million pine cones. And now there's no regrowth. And I think humans have a really hard time squaring that, right? Like, they're just like, I'm just this one person, and they can't, or they don't, or they choose not to acknowledge that, that one person gets multiplied by everyone else thinking that same thing. And I feel like that's that same problem with this. It's like, yes, you're just one person and you may not have the funds. And so, you're getting a cheap version this way, or you're able to do something, but it degrades the ecosystem as a whole and makes it so there can't be organic growth. And you're literally removing the stuff that feeds into the ecosystem that keeps it growing. All that is going to happen is we're going to get more and more lockdown, and we're going to get more and more behind, SaaS walls, and then you won't even be able to tinker with the code. We're all just going to be on Squarespace.
I'm going to age myself for a minute with this comment. So, you remember Kai's Power Tools?
Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kai's Power Tools, there was a period where Kai himself said at a trade show. And I believe I was either there or I was watching it on a video where he said, I have some countries where I've sold one license for the entire country.
Wow.
Because of this reason. Everybody stole Kai's power tools.
Right.
They all wanted that curl, man. You got to have that curl.
And so,
no page curl.
That's an example. That's exactly what Say's saying. Everybody in that country was just taking one pine cone or one license for Kai's power tools.
Right. But
Same
then
thing with his hair.
Also, what happened to Kai? And can we look that up later?
I'm on Wikipedia right now because I was looking at stealing.
Did he go the way of McAfee or whatever? Because the early web was a weird place. That's all I got.
Probably not the way of McAfee. That guy it
is. And by the way, too soon.
Too soon.
Is it really? Was it ever too soon?
No.
That's a weird one.
Oh.
But okay, so the point here is one.
Kai Kraus.
Not your pine cone. Leave the pine cone in the forest. Okay. It's a knockoff pine cone anyway, so you're gonna get home and you're gonna find out that it's just like a cardboard tube with like some wood chips glued onto it, and then you're gonna try to plant your pine cone or paint your pine cone. It's all gonna fall apart anyway. So just leave the pine cone, walk away.
By the way, according to Wikipedia, Kai's still alive and living in California. The last news about Kai was in 2005. So
yeah, I just had this strong desire to get him on this show.
Oh, I would love that.
Oh, dude, that'd be awesome.
I would like.
I mean, he needs an SSL cert for his website, but besides that, he's doing quite well.
I mean, it would be really interesting just in terms of like talking to old web people.
You think with his history of piracy, he'd know to put an SSL cert on his website. I mean, come on, man.
Sure.
Just keep making the same mistake over and over again. I'm not sure if I want Kai Kraus on this show.
So
I really, really do.
I mean, come on, look. Come on.
He seems pretty chill.
We can have him pretty chill. What's his other name? Oh, I can't remember his name. Locker. No, I don't know.
we got a couple minutes. What do you got, Cosper?
Yeah, I was going to say, in a lot of these cases, and I'm curious if the people behind these markets have taken this into account. I know that even though the code is GPL, in a number of themes and in the cases of some plugins, not all of the actual like image files, things like that are used in there have to be GPL. Like you can actually have, I believe, the Yoast images like back in the day were like the little cartoon heads of all the Yoast employees were copyright Yoast. Like it was a GPL plugin. So, I mean, if they're distributing these things and they're just going, they're patting their hands and going GPL, like, and just trying to hide behind that. It's like, well, wait a minute.
I'm sure they've combed
Do you really think that they've combed for 50,000 whatever themes, plugins, all of this stuff that they have? I think that they threw up. I think that they threw up a website and they don't give a shit, and they're just doing everything they can to collect money until they get taken down, and then it's on to the next one.
Right. They probably have like another site, like a clone of that site, like ready to go when that one has to be taken down.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it only took one club member. It only took one club member to fork that thing and make a whole new version of that site.
Oh, that's a good idea.
By the way, according to KaiKraus.com, he is currently a cinematographer. So, and I take back what I said. Kai Kraus is always welcome on this show.
Berners-Lee, by the way, was the person I was trying to remember.
Yep, Tim Berners-Lee. Yep,
that's who I was trying to remember.
He is absolutely welcome on this show.
And then I bet Tim
Berners-Lee. I bet Tim Berners-Lee has an SSL cert on his website.
He definitely does. He's doing a whole new thing that we should talk about sometime. But the who's that other guy? Mr. Website, Mr. Site, Mr.
Al Gore.
Yes.
Oh, you mean the guy from Vegas? The guy from Vegas.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Web King?
$5 website.
Web King.
Yep. The Web King.
Yeah. Tim Berners-Lee, Kai Kraus, and the Web King.
Oh, that's the ultimate panel.
What is that?
We'll just step back, dude. I'll just turn us all off and just let them do their thing.
Hashtag goals. I never had goals for like who do you want to have random like at a dinner before, and now I do. Now,
somebody says hashtag goals a reality here, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, host that dinner and invite me because I will be I will converse and try to remember how to speak a lot for you. I will.
With that being said,
by the way,
yes,
Web King has redesigned his website, so he doesn't have a castle.
Oh no! But what's it?
No more ActiveX. Dang.
Yeah. What's it in now? Did he build it in WordPress?
Shockwave.
I'll find out for the next show.
That would be amazing. I just want to say for the record. All right. Well.
Talk to y'all later.
Bye bye. Happy Friday.
Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe, where you can subscribe to this content and all the other content that we have going on as well. This is an audio podcast as well as a video show on YouTube, so feel free to go take a look at us at wherever we're at. Talk to y'all later.
That would be listening.
Web King is in WordPress, and he is using WooCommerce.